If you remember, Babangida took over power from Buhari, promising to respect human rights, and that civil society should monitor to ensure that they did that. And what led to that was Buhari's government was so bestial and brutal. It detained a generation of political leaders, banned newspaper houses, the famous one being the trial of 4 journalists from Guardian. Around 1988, I was the speaker of the Student Union, University of Nigeria, and also Senate President of National Association of Nigerian States. So we were the ones that led the SAP protest in 1988. As a result of that, those who were considered the ringleaders were arrested, detained, expelled. And I was one of those Ghanaian jail-free legal assistants. So when I graduated in 1990, I decided the least I could do was to join the human rights movement. For me at that time, it was like a moral atonement. This organization that helped me at the time when family members were too scared of the military to lift a finger. When we came into the movement, it wasn't also an easy struggle, because I said earlier that the people who founded CLO, unlike CDHR, were lawyers, and their own orientation to struggle was using the instrumentality of the courts. And we were product of the streets, and our own was to engage. So the language we used during our time was the language of political education, which is about mobilizing the oppressed class to challenge the system that held every one of them down, whether you are a woman leader, a student leader, a workers leader, or whatever issue you are agitating. You can see a nexus between your suffering and that system that made it difficult for you to self-actualize as individuals or as a group. But to tell you the level of subjugation that we are in today, we use voter education. And voter education is about compliance within an existing system. You want to monitor election, you must be accredited. You want to monitor election, you are not allowed to canvass for any party. Whether that party is the party that champions the interests of the oppressed, you must be neutral. Basically armed with a pen and a paper while your country is being raped. If you are comparing the past and the present, and what we need to address going forward is, why is it that with all the increase in the number of groups that are out there agitating for one thing or the other, why is it that in spite of the increased specialization that we have witnessed over this period, why is it difficult for us to push an issue through that will really empower the people to engage the system?
And fast forward that thinking to now that we have COVID-19 and all the restrictions in our way of doing what we usually do in the past, which is mobilize and go on the street, you begin to see how this compliance mentality also impacted and affected the way we responded to the policies government came out with in response to COVID-19. And what were those policies? One, government said we should all lock down. Nobody should go anywhere, stay at home, and all of that, so that we flatten the curve or whatever. Nobody said, well, hang on a minute, we have an economy in which over 90%, in fact, in some communities, it's actually 100% of everybody is involved in the informal economy. And what is this informal economy? It's a daily hand-to-mouth engagement, barely surviving, in which case if you stop working for a day and nobody brings food to your house, you will starve. And the question is, how long can you stop working, stay in your house in an environment where foods are not being brought to you, or even when you get it so paltry that it cannot take you more than a meal, and you're expected to lock down, this is where I feel civil society actually failed in response to this COVID-19, because we should have interrogated that policy of lockdown to really hold government accountable, put their foot to the fire. If we lock down, how are you going to feed over 100 million Nigerians that are trapped in that below poverty line, and begin to push them to ensure that if you are going to do palliative, it's not palliative for 500,000 or 1 million. We are looking at 100 million. And if you don't have the resources to feed 100 million people, can we rethink this lockdown in such a way that it will factor in the livelihood of? So this is where the discussion needs to start before we even go about the mechanism and the tools of engaging at this period of time where we cannot go to the streets. Now, I think the first thing to recognize is that because civil society was so atomized, professionalized, and fragmented, no one group felt it was its responsibility to respond to this. Because firstly, people saw it as a health problem. And the health sector in Nigeria is more service-oriented than activist-oriented. So they immediately went into the mode of palliative, to ameliorate sufferings of people. And then the other civil society sort of stayed back. Oh, we are not doing health program. We have no grant to deal with health. And it's when the abuses started from law enforcement angle, or that people who are into holding security agencies accountable suddenly woke up. Oh, work has arisen for us to do, and then they started issuing reports and all of that. And then along the line, people started also seeing this is actually a larger governance question, that systems are breaking down, and really government has no framework of responding, even responding to the most minute of challenges before it's easily get overwhelmed. Now, what does that tell you? It tells you that over the past 22 years, we have lost, the kind of platforms that cross across sectors that enabled groups in the past to respond, from that holistic perspective. I mean, if it were in the days of CD and other pro-democracy groups and all of that, they would have rallied. If it were in the days of CLO that worked across sectors, they would have rallied. But now, we are so atomized that we are waiting for the problem to deteriorate to the sector where we claim to be expert before we jump in. So we need to going back to building and strengthening pan-Nigeria platforms that are there to respond to issues, irrespective of the dichotomies that donors and donations have tried to create within the citizen sector in Nigeria.
The charity aspect of philanthropy is very important, especially at a period like this. But it's important when we're engaging in it to know that the symptoms that we are treating, right? We're using charity to, try to ameliorate the symptoms. But we all know there are underlying factors. There are systemic issues that have made it possible, to the extent that I have extra to give in charity. And what I like it to is who are billionaires. And then the policy facilitates and breaks barriers for them to keep amassing. Compared with another one that actually creates a level playing field for 1,001 SMEs to emerge and try to solve. No policy is politically neutral or value neutral. Whether it's a policy, whatever you think about, there are underlying values, there are underlying ideologies. When government comes and says, let's lock down, in a society where 90% of people are trapped in the hand-to-mouth sector, you don't need a soothsayer to say that is the way to social unrest if you don't. So, and again, which is where I have my little thing with my colleagues in the non-profit sector. When this policy came out, or even before it's announced, we need to know where it's headed and begin to push back so that we don't have to wait 1 month down the line, and when a lot of harm has been done, to start pushing for. So this whole compliance approach, which is playing into the charity mode of philanthropy, needs to change in the sense that we make the demands, we push back in the interest of the majority of the people who do not have, the voice to speak up for them. And when you start acting in that direction, we are now moving towards the justice end of philanthropy. So it's like a spectrum. On one hand, you have a charity, and then the goal ultimately is the extreme other side, which is justice, which is not everybody wants to be a non-profit, but I also want to do good while doing well. How can I invest in a manner that enables me to achieve double or triple bottom line? So there are organizations that facilitate that, and people are investing. So we are moving funds from traditional private sector asset under management money to the center where you have impact investing. So this is where non-profits in Nigeria really need to first sit down. What am I offering? The models I have, are they proven? Have they been tested? Can the market help me do this? And we have a conversation. And private equity companies, impact funds can't really come engage these non-profits. So I see work growing. In fact, the work of non-profit growing in this direction in the post-COVID-19 era, where both donor agencies and government will be looking for more efficient ways of delivering social services. Like everything in Nigeria, I actually see people are beginning to use the social enterprise model in a way that is perverse, which is, I say I'm a social enterprise, which means I'm engaging in commercial activities, I am getting revenues. At what point should I stop getting grants, which is basically subsidizing what the market wants? Those who are depending on grants will continue to get grants. You say you're a social enterprise, grow and go to
exactly.
I can give you startup funds. Say over the next 3 years, I want the market to validate this product and pay for it. So social enterprises, we need to ask ourselves, for how long will we continue to subsidize and subvent their activities before market takes it over? Because that is the growth plan. There is what is called donor advised funds, right? I am a philanthropist. I have money to give to a cause that I like. And I know that the overhead of setting up a foundation to run the little amount that I have will finish the amount in overhead. I will go and look for another foundation that does things that are close to what I want to do. And I said, okay, I can give this money to you, but can you use it for these specific purposes to serve this need? If I have an idea of how something could be done better, rather than go and set up an organization and struggle and go through all the wahalas to say,
thank you, Innocent.
I can go to an organization and sell the idea to them, and they can drive it. The same thing,
yes.
Instead of one organization struggling to bear all the overhead costs that is involved in running one, why can't group merge? Abroad, many groups come together to merge. Yes, well, probably at the time was the richest man in the world, and he still had the modesty, the humility to say, you know what, I don't want to worry about all this overhead. Bill, I know you are good at this. Why don't you take this money? Can't we, replicate the same spirit if we say it's philanthropy, which is generosity, that is driving our work, or interest in seeing justice increase and expand in the world? That would be my advice to that point.